What's going on, everyone? I am, in fact, Brad Chester, and this group of fancy lads starting over here. We'll start with the fanciest one at the top right from me. That is Mr. Tom, and then we'll introduce ourselves. Go for it, everyone.
I have arisen. I know I've been gone for a little while, sick, and then I was gone for work, but I'm back. Sorry for everyone. We had a boring show with Brad trying to run the show when
Oh,
I was gone, but I
Jesus.
have returned. I have returned.
The prodigal son has
The
returned.
prodigal son.
I am
Celebrate.
Steven. I am still not knowing what I'm playing in a week and a half for a major, and that's a good time.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
I need an army called War and Peace.
I am Kyle Treya, and I am the most lovable human in existence. Maybe.
In existence? Wow.
Yep.
That's a throwdown, baby. Who doesn't like Brad?
Apparently, Crowley's living in a cave now.
All of the things, some of the stuff. You know what? I am literally diving in and talking about mech peoples, otherwise known as ad mech, because I want to talk about some of the shit they could do that's crazy. You know what? I'm going to talk about their army wide rules in about 8 seconds because I want to go to the next thing. Holy shit. So, first off, they have two imperatives they have Protector and Conquer. One, basically, if you're in deployment zone, it makes it APs -1 for them. They make their saves a little bit better. And then Conquer, all their ranged weapons go to Assault, and their APs 1 better when they're shooting at you if you're inside your deployment zone. That's kind of nifty. You know what's way more nifty? When you bomb the entire army on turn 1. And if the army, basically, at the start of the first battle round, each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone, your opponent must decide whether the unit will take cover or stand firm. If a unit takes cover until the end of the battle round, the unit is battle shocked, which is not great. However, if the unit stands firm, on a 3+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. And you're like, wow, that sounds pretty freaking good. That's entire board. You're like, yeah, but every other turn now, or sorry, every 2, 3, 4, 5, roll a d6 for each enemy unit with your opponent's deployment zone. On a 3+, they just suffer a mortal wound. Dude, that's a lot of mortal wounds.
Yeah. The thing is, I was like talking to my buddies this morning because he's upset because he's like, Admech got nerfed because he plays Admech. And I'm like, a little bit. He's like, you gotta think our Invones went to a 6+, and our Blitzkill got nerfed. But I'm like, dude, like, I literally screenshot that and said to him, like, that is insanely powerful in my opinion.
It's just
Like,
whack.
No, it's not. Oh my goodness. On turn 1, you will do an average of, let's say the average unit has like 10 activations. You'll do maybe 10 mortal wounds across the entire army on turn 1 if they do what you know that they're going to do. And by the way, suffering battle shocked on your opponent's turn, or you making your opponent suffer battle shock and your turn as the active player, is not bad. It immediately clears in their command phase. The only time that you get all the goody benefits of a battle shock is if they suffer it during their command phase, unless we see other abilities, right? We haven't
seen anything else. Battle Shock has not been cool for people as far as the things that can go down.
the thing is, so if you go first, you give them battle shock if they go first. If you go first, you're literally doing mortal wounds to a lot of things. Let's say you're playing Tyranids and they have 15 drops, which is not uncommon.
Dude,
I mean,
the units that are going to be fucked.
20 mortal wounds.
Dude, think
You
about
are
it.
not going to take.
Eldar, Sisters, things that all those armies that have tons of 1 wound models, those are going to get hit hard.
But they're
You're
going to
playing
be in
against- playing against-
transports.
Fine, fine. You're playing against Tau, right? And my one crisis unit, right? 66% chance you just get a free drone. That's awesome.
Sure, but you're trading your faction ability for it. So instead of the detachment rule is the same thing as the rerolls are for Marines. So we can't imagine that there's going to be offensive and defensive ones that are going to have impact on the game. So would you right now, either one of you, you're a Marine player, would you trade what is it? The Oath of the Moment? Would you trade Oath of the Moment for this?
No.
No,
I still have a
didn't think so.
Doctrina. So you're saying, would we trade Oath of Moment for a
This
week
is
for
the
Oath of Moment?
detachment rule, right? So this
Yeah.
is the third phase. You pick your thing. So the detachment rule, this is the equivalent of Oaths of the Moment for Marines. Any one of you here willing to look me in the eye and tell me that you would take this over Oaths of the Moment?
I don't like AdMech, so I would never take it.
Well,
Thank
so
you.
the fallout only
I would only
happens.
take this over Oath of the Moments because I'm playing
But
AdMech.
mechanized people are stupid, so.
But the fallout only happens in your opponent's deployment zone, right? Like, how much are you really going to? And I mean, I know
Depends
it's
on
like
the deployment, man. You know what I mean?
third, fourth, fifth.
It's
Yeah,
You're
but-
playing
be
Scour, you're
approximately-
playing Relics, you're playing something like that, you're playing Diagonals. Basically, any of the missions where two of the objectives are in your deployment zone, you're going to have dudes inside there.
The thing is, like, if you're gonna ask if I don't think it's cool that, like, if I'm playing against a Marine player and 66, I get to roll for every one of the units, and 66 for the time I get a free Marine. Hell yeah, I'll take that.
No, you get that on turn 1. And then
Yeah,
every turn after that, it's another 1 mortal wound if they're
But
still
the
in
thing I'm talking about on turn 1, I'm looking at everything. I go first, and before I get to do anything, I just look at your arm like, all right, I'm gonna roll die, and 66 for the time, I'm getting an average of 2 mortal wounds. I
I'll tell you
love
what.
it.
I'll tell you what, Tom. If you come to one of the streaming events that we do, I'll bring my AdMech so that you can play that ultra overpowered ability and demonstrate it on stream.
Done.
He's literally going to get 100% mortal wounds, and you're just going to get ruined.
It's gonna be
every
ruined.
3 mortal wounds on turn
And
1.
you have to play either Sisters or Eldar and just accept the fact that you're picking
no,
up
no.
so many models.
You forget though. If go back to the Sisters preview, which we have not covered yet. If I suffer a mortal wound, I get
have.
+1 to hit. So I buff my entire army by eating your rad.
You can go +1 to
cohort
hit,
on
+1
turn
to wound, by the way, depending on where you are.
So
Yep.
you drop the bomb, and on average, you're doing 2 mortal wounds to everything on the table, like whatever. Like, what's the strongest part of this ability? Is it the bomb in the beginning, or
But
the
it's not
fallout
the
for
detachment ability. The detachment ability is literally the army wide is the imperatives.
No,
The
it says
protector and
detachment.
conquer. The Doctrina imperatives are the big, like the army wide thing.
That's the
everybody's
army
getting.
rule. Right.
This is the rad cohort detachment rule.
Right. And I think that you're going to see Mars is going to be a detachment again, and everybody's going to play one of the detachments. But I don't think it'll be called Mars now. It'll probably be like.
So this is rad
Omnicide.
cohort. This could be like literally the C- level.
I know. That's my point. We haven't even seen.
I
the
mean,
good
literally
one yet.
ignoring AP is pretty awesome. Also, having +1 AP when you're shooting someone in their deployment zone, still kind of cool.
Yeah. Especially if we have like Lucia still gets its teleport, which it's had for a couple of editions, right? Where you can now deploy in the backfield and be like, I'm ignoring cover and now I'm AP2.
It's also kind of a big deal because it doesn't say completely in. So if you're toe touching the deployment zone, it looks like you're still going to get blasted.
That will be a nightmare. Where you have to, at the beginning of the game, have your opponent put down sticks to mark
Yeah.
their deployment zone.
And it's also Matt did make a good point. He goes, it is going to be pretty time intensive to just every single turn roll for everybody on the board, especially when you're playing like guard or GSC. You're going to be like, whew, all right.
I don't think so. I can roll for 20 activations in 30 seconds. All right, dice here. Okay, good.
Just throws all the dice in the air and he's like, blah, blah, blah. You're just
What
yelling.
you gotta do is you gotta roll it behind a building and be like, don't worry, bro. They're all 3 pluses.
There it is.
Don't worry, it's all 3 pluses.
I mean, Lyle has a good point in chat where he said, like, you could just not do the mortal wound thing. You could just get battle shocked and
Yeah,
Battle
but like
shock
KR
does
makes a point. He
nothing.
says it says until the end of the battle round. It doesn't say you come out in your command phase.
Well, no, it says you suffer battle shock. Battle shock is a keyword that they've already covered in another article. Does it say you suffer battle shock until your next command phase?
Well, let's look at it again, kids.
that unit is battle shocked. It doesn't
Right, but
say
battle
there's no
shock
timing.
says- Yeah, and then battle shock when
End
we
of
go
the
back
until
to
the end of the battle round.
Oh yeah, they're done.
Yeah, specifically, you're not coming out of that shit in the command phase. You're standing there going,
Yeah.
"Oh man, shit just happened."
Oh,
No.
I can't do nothing because
It
I have
says
battle shock.
if it's that unit takes. Oh yeah, you're right. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that is an actual effective one because that reduces your OC. Again, though, it's the same thing when we were talking about Shadow of the Warp. Because spoilers, there's a new unit.
I was going to
that's
say
created
that
for
unit's
Tyranid.
also pretty badass, by the way.
But suffering, you would never Shadow of the Warp on turn 1 because they can't control their objectives on turn 1. Now, it could be cheeky with this one if you get enough things that you accidentally block and now
Yeah, but
they
if you
can't.
get scouting units and stuff like that, you can battle shock them and just steal it if that person went first. You know what I mean? So you
Mhm.
can
They
just
can't banner.
Yeah, they can't do anything. So
But
like,
you have to hit enough of those to stop them from being able to control it with anything.
no, like, because if they AdMech goes second, this ability does more actually, because then you just battle shock them.
Battle round is first and second
Right.
player's complete
Exactly.
first turn.
100%.
Right. So it only lasts until the end of the battle round. So then the next player, let's say they went first, they would then lose battle shock at the beginning of their command phase.
Is
it
There's
the
next
beginning?
battle round.
If the AdMech goes second and the player moves up to start taking objectives, the person who went first takes it a lot easier to take those objectives back and stuff like it. I agree, Brett. I think it's even stronger.
We'll
if
have
you
to
go
see
second.
what the
Wait, hold
we'll have to see what the timing is when it's considered to be done. You know what I mean?
Well,
So if
we
it's-
know battle shock goes away at the beginning of command phase.
we haven't seen how we score anymore though. You know what I mean? Because right now you get to choose what happens. Like
I
in
thought
one
we saw
order.
that in the article for Tempest of War. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No,
we'll talk.
I don't know yet. I'd have to reference that one. I'm saying I'd have to look at that. So let's
I think
scooch.
it's a good ability.
Let's scooch down to the Vanguard. They look good. They're fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're awesome.
Well, the thing is you'll let to see their coin. Anytime you have a battle line or unit, it 1000% comes down to how much they cost per model.
So I don't know from a rule standpoint, even if their points stayed the same, hopefully I think they're gonna stay the same, but I think they have some sweet rules. I like what they did to their weapons. I like the fact that we're seeing at the addition they're toning down a little bit for killing power. So
I don't know,
you
man. These guys are shooting at somebody in their own zone. They're getting their basic weapon is AP1. It'd be AP2 if it was shooting into it, and they also have the ability to ignore cover.
well, their basic weapon was radium carbines, right, which is AP0.
Could you
He's looking at the arc rifle.
Oh, that's not. I thought they just named something a different thing. That
No,
makes me
radium
sad.
carbine was their basic weapon before.
Either
It's
way, they're ignoring cover if they're getting an extra AP.
one.
Yeah.
But the thing is that they made it anti-infantry. That's really important. Before they could wound anything that wasn't a vehicle. Now that their auto wounding ability only affects infantry, which I think is fair. It sucked for when you played a big monster army and you had to play against AdMech. Like, by the way, I'm wounding you on 4+ to hit. But I don't know. I like the profile. I think it's really good. I think it's one of my favorites I've seen so far. I like the fact that they have built in, I like what data tethers do now. In addition, when we're talking about it's going to be a little bit harder to get CP, you have a chance of getting CP back just automatic on a 5+ when you use one on them, which is kind of cool.
The battle line guys have all gotten, a lot of them have gotten this. I'm super impressed by the optimized gate from the Rust Stalkers. +1 to advance and charge, +2 to advance and charge if they're within a battle line, 6 inches of a battle line unit. That's pretty boss.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are hauling ass then.
Well, and the good part
Well,
is too when you get the aggressor imperative stratagem that we go on to a little bit later.
They
The
advance and
ability
charge.
to then advance and charge is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty happy with a lot of the AdMech stuff, actually. I've been looking at it when we got home. And I got a question for you guys. Before I give my opinion, what do you guys think of Call?
I didn't think too much of Call. I thought that the units they showed were pretty awesome. I thought the Call was just meh.
It'll depend heavily on what stealth does, to be honest.
I think the rumor for stealth is basically what Raven Guard is right now.
-1 to hit
Not
outside of 12.
But what do you call it? Not Raven Guard, but
Just any of the ones. It's -1.
the one strikes in it. Like what is that? It's Raven Guard, actually. It is Raven Guard, isn't it?
Yeah, just
Strikes.
-1 to hit outside of 12.
Yeah,
Sup,
that's
sup.
what they think.
Yeah, exactly. +2 to advance and charge, then the ability to advance and charge is huge. Rust Stalkers are badass.
He's on a
And
really
Socks are
big.
badass now. I'm actually glad to see that because it's showing us that they're not going to nerf things that are already really good right now, which I like.
Well, he's on a really big base, so he gives a really good +1 or reroll hit rolls of 1 aura. And if rerolls become less prevalent, that's going to be extremely beneficial.
Unless you're Chaos. Rerolls seem pretty common in Chaos still.
Oh, and in Marines.
Well, I saw no. There's absolutely no rerolls in Marines. I don't know what you're talking about. KR, you took a mortal wound in Battle Shock. If you were playing demons, do that. They auto make people take that. So we'll see on that. Now they showed the eradication beamer, which meh. I mean, it's a cool gun, but it's D6 attacks. I was surprised that we've been getting so many random number of shot weapons. It is blast, sustained hits on the D3.
I don't. That wasn't the gun that everyone took, though, right? It was a different one they liked.
I mean, sustained hits D3. That's exploding D3 hits,
It's
right?
exploding
So
D3 hits, yeah. So if you roll a
that's
6, then
pretty
you got a
good if
couple
you
sixes,
actually
it's a
roll
big
couple
deal.
sixes.
It's like ultra Tesla.
Crawley disappeared into the warp too, but there's another, like, this is just another weapon with another keyword onto it. It's like all of these weapons are continuously adding these keywords. Still not 100% sure of all of the keywords because I just can't remember the difference between like lethal, devastating, sustained, whatever the other ones are. But it's cool that they're like, they have their little segmented things in the beginning so you can exactly tell what's happening when you shoot the weapon. And something else that we need to point out on the like aggressor imperative and bulwark imperative.
It's a pretty big
both
deal.
of those say rad cohort, right? And we were just talking about we don't know where rad cohort's going to be. Maybe rad cohort is the main name of the faction, like Mars or whatever.
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, come on. The thing that the stratagems they showed were pretty badass. And being able to advance and charge, and then just giving one of those blobs a 4-up invuln is pretty big.
Oh yeah. I think MX gonna be pretty good. I was kind of in agreement. Just want to talk to a few people because I had a few people reach out to me. I was like, I think they got a slight nerf. Now that I've been looking, I don't think they got nerfed at all. I like their ability. I think you could say, yeah, they went from BS3 to BS4, but we've seen it a lot. You've seen a lot of killing potential from all across the factions getting toned down, so that's just normal. But I really like some of the things we see from Madback right now.
I think all the primary shooting factions outside of Marines are getting pushed to BS4. We've seen Votan go to 4. We've seen these go to 4. Tau is already on 4, so it makes sense as a balancing factor to reduce damage, to reduce ballistics, go by 1.
I really want to see what they're doing to Tau really bad. I want the whole thing.
Let's jump into the next thing that they showed us so far, which is the Neuro Tyrant, which seems pretty beast mode, by the way. We'll see what its actual physical stats are, but the fact that it gives a battlefield-wide -1 for everyone's battle shock test when you unleash Shadow in the Warp, pretty big deal, man.
Oh yeah.
And then they've also got the ability in the command phase to select up to 2 friendly Tyranid units within 12 inches of them, and they, until the next command phase, that those units are considered to be within synapse range, which is a big deal. So that's huge. So I think this model, obviously we have to see points and stuff, but man, those are strong. Those are strong abilities.
If Tyranids keep a similar ability to their imperatives currently, where now you can just fire the 4-up invuln or the whatever on a character or a unit and fire it off across the table, and it keeps it defensively because it's now out of synapse range, that's going to be fantastic.
I have a question for you guys. What do you think the next reveal is we're going to get?
Eldar.
Oh shit! Yeah, it is Eldar.
I was just going to say, I'll just scroll down to the bottom and just look. Eldari. I'll put some money on the Eldari going on next. I've got a good feeling about it, Tom.
If Tau goes to BS5, Age of Sigmar, anyone?
And for sure, Mike, if Craft World's going to stay 3-up, but will 1 wound, you will melt the Rad Mortals. It'll be annoying. Any of the armies that have just one wound is going to be harder. Obviously, like a bunch of the mortal wounds won't feel as much of a big deal on the armies that bring a ton of multi-wound beasts and vehicles and whatever else. But yeah, if you're playing one of the 1-wound armies, it's going to be real annoying.
What do the neurogods do? The little brain bugs. They extend synapse range, correct?
Yeah, they extend synapse.
That's what literally just we're talking about.
No, the different ones. So they have little guys. They have new gaunts. They have neuro gaunts, and then they've got the new guy, which is a neuro, basically a tyrant. He's a neuro tyrant. So they've got some new cool things. But it's going to be, man, especially if you could save this for later in the game, just slamming down -1 on all the battle shock tests and an army-wide battle shock test, you can just give your opponent a 0 on primary and just wreck things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'll be crazy. So we'll see on that. Will the Wraith Knight get good in 10th? Stay tuned to find out for sure.
I hope Wraith Knights get good again. I have like 6. You remember back when we used to run those, how good they're painted? I have like 6 mastery painted Wraith Knight.
I've got 4 Wraith Knight. Dude, they're so bad.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I do think that in the beginning of the edition, especially, knights are going to be rampantly good in the very beginning.
Yeah, what is it going to be? Are Wraith Knights going to be rampantly good or just regular Knights?
I mean, I've seen people running Wraith Knights at RTTs currently. That's not saying.
I can't tell you the
Who
last
are
time
you
I
seeing
played
running a Wraith
Wraith
Knight? Like people that lose bats in your area?
He won an RTT that I didn't go to, so does that count?
No.
Yeah, I mean, just a bad playing area, and like I have not seen an actual Wraith Knight at table in any tournament I've gone to in forever.
A Wraith Knight has a picture of a regular knight up in its room. It's like, man, if only one day I could be that cool.
One day I'll get back on the table.
Jesus. They're so bad. Exactly. They're going to be back on the landing pad getting that 4-up involved. Woo. Exactly. I haven't seen a Wraith Knight since 8th edition. 100%. So let's talk about the meta right now, because then we're going to talk about our predictions. Because right now we've got only one faction that is really rocking it out since we've had stuff. Iron Hands went 63% over the weekend, 57% overall. So for in the entirety of arcs. And that's pretty strong, man.
Yeah, the thing is, the one thing people don't talk about when we look at these statistics and the win rate, armies that are massively played and super easy, like if people go 4-2, a lot, so it's like the majority of the player base is like 14, you have a couple players that go like 5-1 and a couple that go 6-0, you're going to have a huge win rate, right, based off of that. Not to mention you have tournament scenes like Crow was just saying where people are apparently playing and winning with Wraith Knights right now. So, but it's just an easy army. It's I don't know. It's hard to go by those statistics in my opinion. Like, I think any
Just
top
a lot
army
of
right now. Like,
the thing is you have to at least account for it though, because if you're going to a tournament, you have to look at what is most played median wise. You know what I mean? You're gonna see Iron Hands. You're gonna play against them. There's still a ton of games being played with Guard. You know, whether or not you think that these are the tops, you still have to basically be very ready. You have to have a plan when you're preparing for the tournaments.
well, think about this real quick, Brad. All right, what do you take in MCM? Are you taking Wolves?
I'm taking Wolves.
Oh, too bad I changed your list to Sisters of Silence.
Oh, God. I still want to give props to Mike about that. He somehow went 3-3, and I still don't understand how it happened.
Actually, real quick, before I go further, just remind me because I missed last week's show. I wanted to congratulate you in front of everyone for winning the Invitational, that big ass belt you got. You joining the Emperor's Champion Club of Matt Tarantine. Matt Tarantine was last year's champion. Brad's this year's champion. So, real quick, just give me before we go into flicks, I'd like to have this on the show. Give me a quick 2 minutes, recap of how that. I wasn't there for a second day. How did it go? And then was it fun? What'd you think?
Yeah. I love playing. I actually really, really like playing the Wolves. They're have answers to everything, but don't feel like crazy, like OP, they do any one thing. So I had like answers to all the things, and it felt super fun to play. They're basically Eldar and Power Armor for me. And I played against DA, Death Guard, and World Eaters for day 2. And each game was wildly different the way I had to play against them. So they have a lot of answers. It's a super exciting army to play. I just really like it.
You played World Eaters. Was that you said that last? Was that the
Pajamas.
final for you?
Yep.
How did that game go?
Super technical. It was very hard because I had to go first. So I had to put some stuff out and draw them out. So, but it was really hard fought, well thought. We literally took forever to figure out exactly. It was a really fun game to play because we talked through each and everything that we were trying to do and how exactly we had to do it. Well, if you're going to do this, I could do this kind of thing, really talking through what we were trying to do to make sure we weren't, gotching each other with our movements and stuff. But it was a super tight game. Like I said, it's one of those armies that you can have the rug pulled out from under you, but you do have the option at least versus everything. So it feels really good. I like those type of armies where you have to play it really well or shit could go wrong, but it does have so many answers.
And now we heard that takes me to the question I was going to ask. You're playing Space Wolves, right? In your mind, if you play against an Iron Hands that's equally skilled or lesser skilled than you, do you give them any chance of beating wolves?
It depends on the train.
GW style.
GW full use, I have the advantage.
That's my point.
But what if they have an Astraeus?
Then an auto win. Strayas can't be beat.
So go back to the point of like you're expecting to see Iron Hands all over the place at all three of these events that we're talking about.
Mhm.
Touch on the reasons why you're expecting to see them. What's the draw? I mean, we obviously know the draws.
The biggest draw for Iron Hands is this fact that they have reroll to ones everywhere for their heavy weapons, and they can move and shoot heavy weapons with no penalties. So they're getting always consistent damage. They're things like eradicators with heavy melter rifles are just crazy with them because they don't suffer the -1. They're getting the full rerolls, or sorry, the rerolls of ones. They're hitting on 3s. They're just ignoring that penalty for moving. So you don't have to worry about your auras. You don't have to worry about whether you needed to move and do something. So it's an easier army to play because it has more consistency. Rerolls are rerolls, you know what I mean? And ignoring modifiers is huge also. So that combination of those things together are just super strong because you can pop out on sides with heavy weapons, or they normally would get those minuses, or you'd want rerolls. Well, you get both of them. You get to ignore those modifiers, and you get to get those reroll ones. That's why the army is just so good, because it's just consistent. It gets that consistent damage, it gets those consistent hits and everything through there, and it's just easier to play because of that, because you don't have to worry about your auras. You don't have to worry about taking negatives.
And you're still expecting to see them without, like, with Codex Warfare getting hit.
100%.
Because it's just something else, right?
Where did Crawley go?
He's back.
Here.
I don't see him at all. It just sees his background.
He went into the night. He's back though.
Oh.
I shadowed into the
He's a
warp real quick.
ninja.
Yeah.
So
I had to go into the warp. I was
Probably-
trying to see if I could get some of my boy Vulcan back.
but
Probably because you wanted to hide after making that Wraith Knight comment.
Well, honestly, Iron Hands right now are probably the easiest faction to play with the lowest ceiling, or sorry, lowest floor. The ceiling isn't quite as high as some of the other more technical factions currently, but like just army-wide rerolls
it's
on
still
heavy
pretty
units
high
and stuff
because
like
of that, though.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? You got a
Okay.
huge amount of damage.
Right.
I'm saying it right now. You give me Tau right now, even with Tau not in the greatest position, I'll wreck Iron Hands all day long.
Well, see, I think Tower actually in probably one of the best positions currently. It just depends on terrain.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was going over a Brett and we're making lists. That's real hard right now. It's real hard to make lists.
The only negative thing with Tower right now is you can't afford trash, and that's a big problem. They're priced up a little too high. If everything went down by like 10% and you could afford some Crute Hounds and some Crute, oh boy, Tau would be tearing up everything. But since you can't afford trash, you have to play on the razor's edge the entire time, and it gives you a really bad matchup into World Eaters, especially.
I'm not even much worried about World Eaters. I'm worried about Space Wolves, actually.
Space Wolves?
Mm-hmm.
Only 3 people play those, so.
I know, and they're bad.
I love you're like 3 people play them. One of those guys I heard is a 3-foot tall guy that can't see anything.
I'll never lose to Brad just because, that's just how the world is. But
I mean, granted, all the Space Wolves players got rid of their best tech. They were running suppressors, and they were super dangerous, but
I
they all
know.
stopped for some reason.
Suppressor spam.
honestly, suppressors wouldn't be bad against Tau, which is the sad part.
Like, even our
the
boy
charts-
Sean Rice is probably going to be running Iron Hands at the Super Major coming up, which is a big deal, right? So, like, I think that honestly, they're in a really good spot right now. Just not I don't find the play style to be super engaging. You know what I mean?
I think
Sorry, I have to go to the wall because I was going to talk about, transports blowing up and auto being battle shocked. But what I do want to talk about is the fact that the next quote on the wall is, remember, folks, Tau women prefer Tom.
that's true.
Yep.
I like me some fish tacos. You know what I'm saying?
He went there right before I could.
Jesus.
Love me some fish tacos. What can I say?
Yeah, just
I don't
doubling down
understand.
on it. Just go. Just don't even worry about it. Move on with your life.
So,
Sean is in the chat. Sean, we know you're playing Iron Hands. We already know. Like, there's no question in anybody's mind.
I mean, it doesn't matter what he played. He chose the weaker of the 2 tournaments. So
Actually, it looks like it's the more sharky of the two tournaments.
What?
Yeah.
Who do you got going?
We got Kyle coming. We got Sean coming. Like, what are you gonna pull up?
Kyle's not going there anymore.
Oh, I mean, Kyle could audible at the last second. We got Brandon Valee, the Cow Lord himself of the Sith. Quite a few of the XPZ guys are coming. Like, it's gonna be lit.
Lit.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the players going to MCM?
There's like 2 good people going to MCM, right?
I was trying to goad you into that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of all the good old players.
Sean, you're right. Sean did leave MCM out of fear because he knew he wasn't going to be able to do well there. So he audibled to go to there because all he has to do is beat a couple of guys. Because MCM is the bigger fish event.
There is a lot of heavy hitters going to MCM.
Lyle Dixon is probably the best player that I know. He's going to take it home.
A hurtful saying.
I mean, Sean was petrified of you, Brad.
He should, as well he should be.
He didn't want to have to bring your stool to the table to play against you.
I've got my little grabber sticks. I can't be beat.
Even Sean agrees that it was just running in fear.
Constantly.
So if Iron Hands are the most populous army and expected to have the biggest appearance of all 3, is there like an army that you say goes into them really well if you're trying to snipe?
Well, you never want to just snipe. That's never what I want to do. I want to make sure that I have plays into the tops or the ones that are going to be the most populous. And I think that's a big thing because what happens is, and we've had tons of people try to do this before, and a lot of times they get bit in the ass, is they make armies that are super focused on what they think are going to be in the top 8, the finals and things of that nature. But then they have to get through everything else. And if you don't have an army that can deal with knights and with guard, everything else, you're not going to get it. You're not going to make it there. You're just going on luck then that you get the good pairings.
I honestly think that Tau are in the unique situation where they can outgun Iron Hands. I think they're in a good spot for Iron Hands, but your bad matchups are bad, and that runs you into a super big problem.
The problem with Tau is like Demons is a 50-50 match, right? Because if they're bringing the Bloodthirster, and without planes, Tau struggle against wound caps. Just how it is. They have a hard matchup against Worldies if they go second. So 50% of the time, you're in a really, 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 really bad spot. And then an army like Space Wolves that have a heavy, fast melee counterpart that can hide in U's and L's, and you don't have ways of drawing them out because you don't have trash. You don't have multiple crisis squads anymore. It's just hard.
I think guard actually gives Tau a bad time too.
It depends on it depend on the terrain. Because Tower is so much more mobile than the guard are. I do want to go back to what Kyle was saying though, on that, because he was talking about trying to focus on whether you were looking for things. It is a big deal that you have to make sure that your army, and I think people do a lot of mistakes on that. You have to make sure that your army plays against the top factions very well, and you can't. The thing is you don't want to chase. You want them to be aware of the meta, but not chase the meta, because then if you make a bad call, all of a sudden you start playing 3 or 4 games against shit that you didn't think was going to be there and you're not prepared for it. So I do think it's important you don't have to smash everything. I would rather have, that's why I like the armies like the Wolves, where I can play against anything, but I'm not just straight smashing anything. But I do think that was a good point though, because I think that you can fall into that. But you do have to make sure that you know the answer to that. Look at the top armies that are winning and go, what is my plan against those armies? And that's a big deal when you're making your army for a tournament. Is you got to really think about what am I probably going to face, and then what is my plan against that? And your plan doesn't have to be awesome; it just has to be a plan. So,
the 3 rules of archetypal list building: 1, make sure that you can handle almost any archetype. Right? I have a way to deal with a big knight. I have a way to deal with several tanks of whatever type. Right? Whether it be a Riptide or a Lehman Russ. I have a way to deal with mass infantry troops, right? And then you need to always make sure that your list, you have a plan if you don't have good secondaries and you've thought about each mission. You don't have to have a flow chart of diagram of what you take into what every single faction, but you do need to have a thought process of, okay, I'm playing into this person and they give up absolutely no secondaries. What's my plan for my secondaries to take on this mission type, right?
Yep.
And then lastly, you need to have a plan for the terrain type, right? MCM is a big deal because it's GW style with really good terrain that has really good LOS blocking elements. You have to think about that, right? Rocky Top is a facility that's known for its terrain and its uniqueness, and you have to have a plan for that, right? So it creates in the circumstance of making sure that you know the battlefield that you're going into. If you hit those three things, you can do.
Hold up one second, Brad. Brad, pick up your Dr. Pepper bottle again, real quick.
The fact that I didn't take any of the thing off it, yes.
Yes, let's see that real quick. Come on, let's look at this real quick. Come on, Brad, let me see that drink.
Hold on. What?
Corey Gulch, sir, that is incredibly rude. I brought that army to prove a point, okay? And I had on good authority from very competitive players that was ass.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Crowley's just like there's no good players at that event. Crowley's just like there's no good players at that event that could have beat him with that list.
Oh, Jesus.
That's all. He got lucky, you know? Yeah,
I mean,
like, what was that?
I did have to poison the old man before the last round so that I could win it.
I did die. You made me so bad I died. You sent me to the hospital.
Listen, what was that tournament happened in Denver? Was it Rocky Mountain?
Rocky Mountain, yeah.
Rocky Mountain.
It was Rocky Mountain 2.0 out there, you know what I mean? No good players. He walked in, easy matches.
Hey, just remember, Brenton, Tom said there were no good players at Rocky Top. So now you know where you line up on the list.
Yeah, he was playing Farsight there, so that counts as him not being good. So Brett knows how I feel about Farsight. He runs it like he's like, I don't get it. I played Tau and I just can't win these games, and you're playing Farsight. That's why.
So Brad, after Tom has now publicly executed more than 30% of DOG's competitive base, what's our next topic of choice?
Tom's just going like freaking Jay and Silent Bob. Or you so and so punching them in the face and walking away. Good times.
I mean, when Brent wants to run Farsight, I can't defend the boy. I love him to death. He's one of my best friends. I love the kid to death. I will always love him. But I will not love him when he's running Farsight. That's clear.
What did Farsight do to you that you have so much hatred to Farsight?
It's just horrible. It's just horrible. And people like
it does encourage you to make bad choices and to play the game the wrong way. Tau does not get into me. So every time I've lost with Tau, it's because I saw an opportunity to do something in melee and I went Tauabunga it is, and that was the wrong call.
I'm just saying, like, I played some Farsight Enclaves at Vegas and I loved him. Farsight was my boy. We hung out together. He had shots. I didn't even know he was such a wild man. He plays craps.
Listen, Brad would have won LVO if he ran Tau and listened to me. All right?
Hey,
put it out there.
Brandon, all I have to say to that is I hope I don't play against you, so that way when I beat you, you don't tank my score down by 60 points to prove a point.
So this is my thing, real quick. No, we're not leaving Farsight.
Oh my God!
Listen, Farsight.
We've already segued, Tom. We segued.
No. I'm making this. All right, listen. I can't even say its name right. I hate it so much. So you don't get the extra commander anymore, right? So my trait is I can reroll a wound. I'm choosing rerolling a wound over rerolling a hit or a wound. Horrible, right? And I can't take Shadow Sunner as effectively, and I can't have Long Strike or Anva. What the fuck do I want that set for? I get free markers.
Drop zone clear and Farsight bring in a freaking soul stealing sword.
Yes, I can get free marker rates when I'm within 9 inches of you. Per model, not unit, by the way. Every one of my models have to be within 9 inches.
It should have stayed 12 inches. They double nerf too hard at the same time.
Did I mention the soul stealing sword?
You know, I think Farsept should be able to get, and I'm gonna keep calling it Farsept, by the way, for those who try to correct me.
Farsept.
Farsept, because it's trash. I would probably be more happier towards it if they could have like a third commander. If they could still get that extra commander with the, but it's like you like literally you didn't double nerf Farsight, you triple nerfed it. You took away their commander, and who gives a shit about being 9 inches? Like, you're not always gonna get that. Like, you can't even deep strike. What they're known to do, you can't even deep strike and take advantage of that.
We're paying for the thing.
So play Tau Sight, right?
Tau Sight.
There you go.
Tau Sight.
Well, let's talk about what's next, because it's demons, right? It has to be demons.
Demons are actually a really good all-comer right now. The problem that demons have is they run into the armor problem in the face. They're going to be what Melee is
No.
going to be in
No,
10th
no,
edition.
man. They still got they still have a ton of answers though. You bring that multifaceted demon list, I think it's just got a lot of answers.
If the demon player if the like, let's say you're playing into guard, and the guard player screens with infantry to the point where you can't get into the tanks, you will have a really, really, really
Yeah,
bad
you
time.
send random guys to clear those idiots first.
Yes, but they have way more random guys than you do, sir.
You bring some flamers and some bros, and you go on a killing spree. You murder people.
Demons,
be a
I
shame.
think they're going to be in a good spot for the rest of 9th, and I'm excited to see how they play.
I think they're going to be nuts in 10th. I think that's the army to beat, right? As far as what they've showed us so far, I think demons have the ability, from just what they, obviously we haven't seen shit about shit, but from what they have shown, demons have some real shenanigans so far in 10th. Probably the most shenanigans that we've seen.
I honestly think that every single reveal that we've had so far has made me excited to play that army, and that makes me both horrified and super excited at the same time.
Well, I want to go off script for a second here with you guys. So we had a conversation this morning on our Discord, and I want to get you guys' opinion on it actually before we get too far into the show, because we're getting towards the tail end now. We had one of our members, not a DOG member, but a community member, upset and complaining because they went to a tournament and their opponents didn't really know their rules too well, and he felt like the game got too slowed down, and he was upset because he believes that players who don't have that much experience should go to tournaments because it ruins the...
I strongly disagree. Help them out.
Strongly disagree.
Help them out. Also,
Exactly.
and the other thing about that is, we're going into 10th, but you can do this kind of now. You can just make it yourself. But like the fact that we're getting data cards for everything is going to make it that much faster and that much easier for people, because they'll have those rules right there. So both of you can basically have that card and know exactly what your unit's capable of, what it can do. It basically solves so many arguments and stuff like that. You don't have to keep bringing out your book. You've got those cards right there. But the general thing that you said with that, no, if you're playing someone that, if you're an experienced player playing an inexperienced player, you have a duty to make sure that you actually help out and you make the rules more effective for them and tell them what they could do.
Yeah, well, the thing is, and I want to give a little more context here. The player who's saying this also is not too terribly experienced. They're like in the mid levels. They know enough where they don't have to reference a codex, but they also don't know a lot. Like they're not like a top tier player or someone who's very veteran status where they know all the rules. So it's not like they have the 100% ability to just help speed the game along. And I also don't want this to be like, we're going to just crap on this guy. But I was just
No
want
idea
to
what we're talking about. So
I know, but I also, if that person watches our show, so I don't feel like we're just
sure.
crapping on
Well, I'm
him.
not trying to crap, but I think that like you can. Here's my point on that. You should help your opponent if they need help. 2, it's important to have those pre-game conversations about what each army does, ask questions and stuff like that. You can come down to speeding the game up by the fact that you've already asked those questions about movement, pre-game moves, redeploys, fights last, heroics. Do your armies have any special things that you can do? Can you go out of phase? And then you're basically asking your opponent so they know what's going on and you know what's going on.
Yeah. But yeah, and I 100% agree with that. But I just want to get that out there. I thought it'd be a fun conversation for us. Because in my opinion, especially in that person's predicament where they're not too terribly experienced where they can kind of move that game along, I think most players, and they were talking about using chess clocks, stuff like that. First off, 100% acceptable to ask for a chess clock every game if you're afraid of your time getting out there. But the things I want to put out there, and I know I said it in Discord, but I kind of want to say it in the show, always make sure you're playing with the proper etiquette, right? If you're going to play the chess clock, make sure you're just as vigilant as clicking it back onto their time as you are clicking onto your time, and vice versa. Never use it as a weaponized. So if the game's going at a good pace and one person's on their last turn and they run out of their time and you got 15 minutes, you don't need it, let them have a minute or two of your time. That way the game comes to a natural conclusion. But also if you're playing against somebody who doesn't know the rules too well and they're taking a tremendously long time, yeah, a time clock's there to help you and make sure you get your time. But, do some right things like, hey, by the way, man, don't forget you're on time. You're on your timer now. I know you look up rules, but I just don't want you to feel like you're going to lose your time and you're going to get clocked out. And then help them move models if you need to if your game's going slow. Like, try to help speediate the game. Like, if you look at players like me, Brad, and Crowley and all them who play a lot of tournaments, we actually prefer not to play at time clocks.
Yeah.
A lot of times it gets weaponized, and that's a bad feeling for most people. And most of us, we almost always get our games through. I mean, Brad's had a couple games that's gone quite a while, but that's because he's Brad and he's short and he can't reach his models. His opponent didn't want to help him move them. But just think it's, and the most important thing I try to communicate is, I'm tired of doing it over text and through the Discord. There's a social contract you have when you play this game at tournaments, pickup games, garages. You should care much about your opponent's experience as you do with your experience. So going into the tournament, whether it's a GT, an RTT, a super major, with already think that people are going to try to get one on you, and don't do that, because if you go with the wrong mindset, you're going to have a bad experience. Go in with a positive mindset.
I go into tournaments and I still play RTTs, which is sometimes unusual, and I go with the mentality of, I want to be better and I want my opponent to be better, right? Me winning because you made a mistake is a failure on my part, because I should have helped you with that, right? I don't learn anything if you accidentally put your one model out and I have this really cool cross regame teleport and I teleport over here and wipe out your entire expensive unit that's your entire thing on turn 1 before you get to activate, right? I haven't learned anything. I'm not beating you at your level, right? So we take those chances to do it. And that's not an expectation that you have to understand your opponent's codex well enough to describe what they're doing, right? But you can go through and you can help them throughout it, right? Like exactly like Tom's saying, like, hey, you're dropping that there. I have this ability. You might want to move an inch farther out so that way I don't get to just drop you out when you come down, right? Or here, let me help you put that stuff.
So playing with intent and doing all these things to make games easier and more understandable for people is great. But all of us together have the same duty, right? We want to see the hobby grow. You have to demystify this whole concept that competitive play is for the spikes and it sucks. You have to make this a fun interaction with your opponent no matter what, or you don't get the new people. You never get the fresh blood, whatever, but you never get to grow your hobby because you're gatekeeping and saying that oh well, he was playing slow and it ruined the game or whatever. I'm not sure of the entire conversation, but it's the opposite of what the intent is in that saying, right? You're saying that person is making a bad experience for you, but you should have made it a better experience for that person so he wants to come back and play.
We don't know both sides, right? So we're not judging you either.
Well, the thing is, and the one thing I want to say on that is, because the person ended up apologizing, saying they didn't mean to put their frustrations. I think it's a good thing you put your frustrations out there. It allows us to see where you're struggling at. It allows us to see where we can help you, because we want to help the new player you played. We want to help you as well. And the goal of getting this hobby to grow is helping everyone. As long as you do it respectfully. And the person was pretty respectful. They were upset and they were venting, but there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want to discourage them ever from venting in the future either, because it brought out a healthy conversation. Just don't play players like Brad, because Brad's just an asshole and he's not really experience for you.
Real talk though. There's a thing, right, that every single hyper competitive player that you can ask anybody that is what you deem as a hyper competitive player at any large event. We fear playing specific players that get stuck in the middle tables. And the reason that they get stuck in the middle tables is because they don't create a friendly environment for them and their opponent, right? You watch my game against Brad, other than the one that he dies on. You watch my game against Lennon. You watch my game against any other competitive player. We're joking. We're having fun. We're making sure. We're saying, hey, if you do that, that's going to be a bad time, right? We're making sure that both of us are playing the game how we want to, and it is a strategic battle between the two of us. We're not trying to play gotcha hammer. We're not trying to screw people over, right? There are certain people that you'll play that are they think that their best path to victory is to fuck over their. Oh, can I say that on YouTube?
Yeah,
okay.
fuck it.
You're like, it's a done deal now.
Yeah, sorry. This is to mess up their opponent's game plan by capitalizing on their mistakes, and those people never make it to the higher levels because they also make mistakes.
They also don't care about the hobby.
Yeah, they also don't care about the hobby.
Now, if someone's trying to slow play, though, we do have to say that. Don't be afraid to put somebody in a clock if you feel like they're purposely. I feel like it's not that often, but there are people that just try to slow play, I guess. So there's a lot of a difference. I mean, this is a long conversation.
And get TO involved. If you think they're deliberately slow playing, get TO involved. It's not hard to do.
Bro, if you're at 45 minutes left and the TO walks by and says 45 minutes left and you're on turn 3, just look at your opponent and be like, hey, man, I just want to split the time that's left on the round, right? We both get an equal amount. I just want to make sure that we get to
you
play
want
this
to do
game
it
as
way
far as we
before
can to
that, though.
completion.
You can tell by like their first turn,
I
basically,
know.
what's going
I
on.
want to make people as comfortable as
I know,
possible,
but I'm saying
right?
like you gotta, but you should see that that's happening.
Do that as soon as possible.
Right, as soon
I'm
as
not
possible.
gonna say.
Yeah, when
I'm
you
not
play
gonna say-
Sean Rice and he's playing Admech and he's throwing 160 dice at once, you best put that boy on a
Trying
clock
to get
on
those
turn
mortal
one.
wounds on you for every squad too.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna say which year, but ACO. There's only been 2 years, but I guess it's probably. But it doesn't matter. But Brad can be my witness on this. I'm playing someone and the day 3, and Brad laughed his ass off because I go to the table and the guy's like, "Just want to know, I'm playing super serious, and I'm gonna be the guy that takes out Ogden." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And I look at Brad. He's like, "Yeah, like this is gonna be a sweaty game." And I'm like, "Fucking sweaty games." Top players don't ever want to play against those players ever. It's boring. And then they try to got you hammer. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Play fun. Me and Brad played at Super Major against each other for the whole thing, and people were laughing because we're in the finals, and we remind each other like 30 different times about our rules because 3 days I'm like, "Hey, Brad, don't come here because I can blow up." He's like, "Yeah, thanks. Yeah, don't come here, Tom, because I can. Don't forget, I can auspex you." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, man." Like it's the thing is like, don't do gotcha hammer ever. Like if your opponent is not super familiar with your army, don't be afraid. Like Steven said earlier, don't be afraid. "Hey, man, by the way, if you come within here, I can auspex scan you." Because sometimes I don't know that. Like, be like, "Oh yeah, I got him. He dropped in a half an inch, and I got that auspex scan off." It's not cool. Like, and I get you're like, "Well, why do I have the ability?" Well, you want to beat somebody, and I always say this: you want to beat somebody at their best. And you'd rather lose to them at their best than beat them at their worst, is what I say. I just mix it up for some reason. So I got off work late. I'm tired tonight, but
And the answer to that question is sometimes they want to drop in your back in R&D. They need to, and you bait them in there to the point where the only way they can drop is for an auspex scan, and they don't have a choice, right? And then you're making it a thing. But if you're doing like what somebody may or may not have done on the War Games live stream at Alamo GT, where the dude has more than enough room, but he accidentally ends within a half of an inch too close, and you're like, "And now you've activated my top card."
Let's go back to positive things. You guys are bringing me down. Let's talk about
one time I watched Stephen Crowley play someone do that same exact thing. By the way, just want to put it out there.
Let's talk about demons.
Let's talk about demons.
Well, I'm totally kidding. By the way, I've never seen Stephen.
Let's talk about demons. Let's talk about.
What are you guys bringing? Let's talk about what we're bringing to these. We were supposed to do some predictions. We didn't even talk about list rating.
Yeah, we predict that Iron Hands are the only army in 40K.
Exactly.
If you're not playing Iron Hands, you will not win events for the rest of this.
Well, the thing is this. Well, hold on. Let's be fair about one thing. If people are watching the show, they know we're not that structured, right? We are off the wall tangent talkers. It's what we do.
What?
If you keep talking about anything, you just mentioned Brad Chester, and Brad will just shut up and talk about himself because that is your what, Brad?
Look, man. When I think Brad Chester, I think focused man, stays on topic, can't be denied.
I love this. Fuck, never change, you fuck. Never change.
What?
But no, let's get some predictions out there real quick. Let's do a Rocky Top first. Who do we think is going to win Rocky Top? Brad, you take us off.
Well, I want to go. Well, let's go with. I don't want to go with individual people. I want to talk about what we think is going to be there because Rocky Top is playing player place, correct?
Yeah, it's player place with Vali terrain. So just to put in context here, Vali terrain means there are L's that are so big that you can hide either Mortarion or the Colossal Knight, and it fits behind the L.
Yeah.
So that gives you a little bit of context.
I think that Iron Hands are going to do well on that, but I think that that's a great tournament for demons because you can hide like big boys. Because again, true line of sight. Well, you're crazy if you can hide some stuff like that. If you can hide Bellicor in turn 1, that's a big deal.
But the problem is that the amount of terrain that you get is so small amount, and Iron Hands just turn those into shooting galleries. Iron Hands goes first. Hey, look, I put a crate in the middle. Now your game is over. Good game.
Well, I do think a shooting army has the better chance at
yes.
There. So I think you're gonna have a good demon play, but I think that you're gonna have a Iron Hands / DAB guard. One of those three, I think, is kind of going to run away with it.
Kyle, what are you running in Rocky Top?
Demons.
I'm picking demons.
Demon save. Kyle's gonna win the whole thing.
I'm going with demons.
What are you bringing a version of the list you've been playing?
The exact same list.
Which is
He wants you to go into your list and talk about the strategy.
Bloodthirster, the chicken, the defensive chicken, and then max troops. So I'm just going to try to board control the whole game and trade favorably for myself, move up and take things that you can't take because you're slower, and then if you open up the backfield, I'm going to teleport back there and nuke you with Psychic and then clear out spaces for better deep striking for myself.
I like it.
But what I expect to see a lot of at Rocky Top, I think just based on the region it's in, I think you're going to see a ton of guard. There's a lot of guard players in the Southeast, and that's not my favorite matchup.
Oh, you'll be all right.
I currently have a guard list locked in. That's where I'm leaning at the moment.
You say locked in?
Yeah.
How do you know locked in and leaning? What's that? What does that even mean?
Because list a lock isn't officially until like what, the 23rd, so I can like audible it like 17 times in my normal method of not knowing what I'm going to play until I panic call Brad or Tom the night before.
I just want you guys to know,
help me!
I legally put a list up not late for MCM.
Brad,
I was so proud of myself.
You did it the night of list lock though, didn't you?
Oh, Brad hasn't looked. But he totally messaged me, by the way, I just submitted a list. And then I went in there and copied Mike's list from Invitational, which is Sister Silence, and put it for his list.
See you guys at Rocky Top.
So who's winning MCM? Brad with Sisters of Silence.
I don't have the skills necessary to pull that off. I'm very confident in my skills. I'm not that confident in my skills. I do have a bet with Brandon. Brandon said he could go to Rocky Top and go at least 3-3 with Sisters of Silence. I said he cannot.
Listen, Brandon's dead to me right now. I refuse to pick him for Rocky.
Wait. Hold on. What is the buy-in on this bet?
Oh, we haven't even said it. I said that if he won, I would play any faction he wanted. He gets to pick it for the next thing I went to, not team tournament.
I will accept that challenge as well, Brandon.
That is true. Eloise is 100% right on that. Brad and Kramer get so many calls on list locking days because neither one of us are like, what? When is the tournament? we gotta put a list in? Where am I right now?
All right, Crawley, for real, are you going to bring guard? Because I have a list I think you should run.
Man,
we can talk about it. I don't know. The problem with it right now is it's just I was not going to play guard again, but I just literally don't know what to do. And I don't want to go super serial with this event, like, and go try hard. So I'm like, I can just play Triple Dorn again because it was dumb and fun, and it's still not bad.
Matt, I unlock lists for MCM the day before.
Locked.
Though last year there was a vote in the Discord that asked me to unlock them 4 days before. If we get enough people requesting in the Discord, I'll unlock them.
Wait, Brad, is your bet 4 and 4? Or does he have to do 3 and 3 and drop? That's a very good question.
Oh, that's true. But I'm saying Mike went 3 and 3 at the Invitational, which I still don't understand. He's some sort of wizard. So
you have to be 3 and 3 by the end of round 6. After that, you're free to do whatever you want. And no intoxicating me if you play against me.
Ooh. Yeah, Brandon will make you drunk by default if he has to play Sisters of Silence.
This man was like with a pitcher of freaking stuff, and every time I would drink out of it, I wouldn't pay attention, and he would just refill it.
Oh, you mean like people that try to sabotage you? I don't know. Maybe you're playing in the team tournament at Adepticon, and you're pretty tired, and one of your good friends comes up and goes, "Man, you look a little parched, buddy. You need a water?" And hands me a water, and I take a giant swig of it, and it's tequila. Not cool, man.
I don't know who would fucking do something like that. That seems like a real asshole thing to do.
That just goes, here's a diet. It should make everything better. I was like, oh, God.
So, since we've already gone off of the rails with this, Kyle, since I disagree with you about demons, and Brad, I disagree with Brad about demons, how do you feel like demons deal into an armor thing, especially with your list, right? Are you just mortal wounding the shit out of all the tanks? Are you just rolling 5s on all your attackers that are charging?
+1 to wound also.
+1 to wound only works on Tzeentch with freaking flamers.
Yeah, it's one of his main shooting attacks, I heard.
Right, but you have to hit on 3s at that point.
He also has like big dudes, don't you? Like the Bloodthirster who just.
No, he doesn't have a Bloodthirster.
No, I've got a Bloodthirster.
Oh, you do? Oh, you go Bloodthirster chicken. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't play Be'lakor. I think he's a trap.
Yeah,
Bellicor is a trap.
I'll tell you, he kills vehicles. The
It's a
Bloodthirster
trap.
walks over and punts it into another one.
I've talked about how Bellicor's a trap a few times. I just think that his points cost for what he's able to do and how much hate he draws in just doesn't make him worth it. You can drop 60 something points on him and then take the chicken, who is far harder to kill, doesn't draw as much hate, but has way more availability for plays.
Have you seen the Disciples of Bellicor list? That's all demons and just takes 2 war dogs. That's won like 3 GTs in a row in England.
Yeah, I've looked at that one.
They have their terrain's so much different though, because they play UKTC terrain, which has those super long firing arcs.
Yeah.
So you can do different army list concepts with that in mind.
I also imagine that demons play a weird game where you can't really strategic reserve them because you have so much stuff that you're putting into deep strike yourself. That space in the deep strike is a premium.
Yeah, and in the
RKO.
RKO terrain, yeah, exactly. The UKTC terrain, they have huge. The big ruin that they have on each player's deployment zone does fit a ton of shit to start the game.
But for like anything that I have to hit into a lot of armor, I'm just going to play objectives the best that I can. Like I can pick off things here and there with some psychic and some shooting, and eventually like dogs and fiends can punch up. Sometimes the girls can just kill a baby knight. They can never kill a big knight, but like I'm gonna wait until I have more favorable trades with the Bloodthirster and then attack you wherever you're weakest.
Are you more of a despoilers gentleman or are you more of a banners gentleman?
I used to be more banners. I've started taking despoilers a lot. There are missions I'm just hard locking into spoilers and then just praying that I go first. And then if I can just score 8 points and ignore the rest of the game for the secondary until later, I can focus on cutting you off on primary. That's the game I want to play. I just want to continuously cut you off on primary. I'm going to get my 15 on reality. I'm going to score points later. If I can keep you from getting close on primary, I win the game.
That seems like a real boring way of playing.
Oh, actually, the way I like playing is stacking rerolls with just shooting on fours, and I like to just shoot for miles and miles.
I just like to kill all your models like turns 1 and 2, and I think it's a much more enjoyable way of playing.
Tom is the mean person that ends all of his games in 30 minutes, and he comes over and silently judges you while he gets to spend 2 hours relaxing.
But you can see into you see the
just
code
hits
on the
his
matrix,
pen
right?
like nonstop and just tries to see how much he can put a tape measure in my face before I want to murder him. God damn it, Tom.
I love going over to Brad and just hit my pen and blow it in his face, see if I can make him high.
Ah, Jesus.
I did walk up on a couple games at Adepticon where, for Tom, where I was like, "What turn is this?" He's like, "Turn 2," and there's 4 models left for the other person. I'm like, "What, huh? How is this happening?"
Yeah, like Tom and Sean Rice are the only 2 people that I know that have literally unlocked I can kill my opponent and completely table them on turn 2, to the point where Sean like comes over to me sometimes. He's like, "I beat that guy so bad that he like literally rage quit the table." I was like, "Well, what'd you do?" "I killed his entire army on turn 1. I was like, "I'd be tilted too."
Hold up. You don't kill all their models. You just give them enough to stay around and be like, listen, you give them rules. Like, these are your objectives. These are your 2 objectives. These are my 4. Do what you want to do. The moment you cross into my territory, I kill the rest of your model.
You mafia? You give them a mafia ultimatum?
I give you an offer you can't refuse.
We kept telling Tom, and we went to Pittsburgh and he was finishing games in like 8.2 seconds, that Tom rolls up and just goes to shoot his army and rolls his first battle tank and goes 3 hits. Man, that's going to happen all game. You just want to concede now. It's like the first 3 dice. It's like, that's just what's going to go on, man.
Listen, I'm not going to say the person's name, but I'm playing at Pittsburgh, and Brad got so mad at me because he's playing next to me, right? We're both undefeated. This guy walks over and goes, "Man, I feel real honored." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "I'm going to get tabled by you." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'm going to get tabled by you, and I'm really excited. I'm hoping I can last to turn 3. And Brad's like, "Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? I'm playing Mr. McSweaty over here. This dude's just giving." I was like, "Bro, man." And I'm trying to convince my opponent to actually play and try. And Brad's just so mad at me. He's like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
God damn it. All right.
Okay,
Everybody give their last thoughts. We're going to rock this out, kids. Tom, thoughts for the weekends? Next 2, I guess.
I mean, for the weekend, we have nothing going on this weekend, right?
Yeah, no, but we got Eldar being released tomorrow, which I'm going to release the video for. What are you ready to see? What are you ready to see for 10th?
I'm still waiting for Tile, baby. I want to see what's gonna go on Tile. I'm excited for it. You know what? I guess I want to say, I hope this upcoming weekend everyone has fun. If you're practicing for one of the 2 super majors, I hope you have some fun games with your friends. You enjoy it. And I know we make a lot of jokes up here and we act semi-jokative, but the one thing I'd like to say is, man, guys, never forget about sportsmanship. Have fun with the game. Play with your friends. Help everyone get better that you can. And, that's all I got to say on that.
Raleigh?
This weekend, please sign up for MCM. Go support our boys up there. They need all the help they can get because apparently there's not enough sharks in the tank. Make sure that you sign up for Patreon, like, favorite, subscribe, do all that good stuff on the YouTube channel. It helps out a lot. Be prepared. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of things at the ramp up to 10th to be able to talk about where we're going for and everything like that. Also, I love you all.
Kyle, close us out.
Remember to always support your boys at DOG and then go out there and buy them Land Raiders. I'm telling you, they're going to be correct.
I love everything about that.
Land Raiders, as far as the eye can see. Only works on Assault Ramp if they're modded
I
for it.
literally can't even bother saying anything else. Just Land Raiders. That's how we're ending it, boys. Till then, see everyone later.